So getting straight into it, have you seen the England squad?
Yeah, I've recently had a look at it. I think I think the recent update about Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think that's just a wonderful example of how finally England, especially, are really investing in their youth, because that's where the dream and the passion's played. I think, and I think with enough youthful talent, along with the expertise from the more experienced players, I think we can combine them and actually have a shot at least the last date or something this year.
Yeah, because in previous World Cups we've kind of relied on the older players to we've relied on them a bit too much, haven't we?
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
And players like Alexander Arnold had an amazing season at Liverpool, and obviously there's a few other young players like Rashford, Sterling, who is still young, surprisingly. Lingard, I guess you could, but I'm kind of excited a bit. It's just that we don't really have any of those standout players.
Yeah, no, I think we're the kind of team has been very averaged out for so long that you just get these few little young stars cropping up, and you're thinking, yeah, but you're not quite so confident that they're just gonna go out and win the whole thing. Like we don't have a Hazard, or we don't have a Messi or a Ronaldo. But the thing is, what you got to remember at all times is that football will always be a team sport, and so if you get a collective team talent rather than a solo talent, there's more chance of success, because it is so hard one man carrying the other 10.
It's true. Yeah, that's true. I'm not. Another thing that makes me less confident is having Gareth Southgate as a manager. I'm not too keen on him, to be honest. I'd rather have had Sam Allardyce, which was very unfortunate that they got rid of him. But
the way I see it, Allardyce has got so much more experience as a manager, and Gareth Southgate, I remember when I was watching the English Premier League as a kid growing up, I'd always see him managing the bottom clubs and surviving relegation, and that can definitely bring some sort of good managerial sort of focuses. But the thing is, what Southgate has and what Allardyce has is tactics, and I just feel like Allardyce is a lot better at tactical decisions than Southgate. But then again, he has done really well with the under-21s for the last couple of years. So I'm confident that he's got a shot at it, but I don't know how confident I can be on an actual victory, if you get me.
No, yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see, because I mean he got fairly good results through group stages and qualifiers.
Yeah, no, he did. He didn't really let us down.
No.
But then again, when you're a club like England, a country like England, their expectations, like if we were talking about Serbia and then they went and topped their group, won all 10 of their games or whatever, then that's going to be more of a wow, such an achievement. But when a manager steps in and does the same old every year with the same country, then that's where we sort of overlook it.
Yeah, because we seem to always finish top of our group in qualifiers and then just get through. But then it just gets to the tournament and then we just have a horrendous group stage, just scrape through, and then I don't know, maybe get to the quarterfinals if we're lucky, and then obviously lose. But I do like to be optimistic as well and hope we can kind of change it this year, because it's definitely a different kind of approach we're taking with these youngsters and no standout players, I guess. So it's just whether they gel and whether we can get the results we want, really.
Yeah, precisely.
So if I'll just go through the team bit by bit. So the goalkeepers he's picked is Jack Butland, Jordan Pickford, and Nick Pope. Obviously Joe Hart has missed out, and they've put Tom Heaton on standby as well for Burnley. So that's two Burnley keepers that are essentially have been and are kind of being
they've been
called
the
up.
backbone of their season as well, though. I mean, finishing 7th, 8th, I'm pretty sure it's 7th. But for a team like Burnley to do that is incredible, and their goalkeepers, that defence has been really solid. So I see no reason why they wouldn't be picked.
No, yeah, I saw the stats of Nick Pope, and he's I don't know if I can pull them up real quick, but basically he had the best stats throughout the whole season, but bar saves, which I think Jack Butland was top at, because but then having stopped the most saves kind of is a weird stat, because it kind of judges the defence and how much shots are getting through, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think our number one should be Nick Pope, I think, overall, because Pickford, although I do rate him as like he's quite a good shot stopper at times, I watched Match of the Day just on Sunday, and he had an atrocious game against who is it they played?
Did Everton play Southampton? No, was that?
Let me have a look. But anyway, he was just making error after error. It was kind of like he kind of knew that the World Cup squad was being. I was West Ham, that was it.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah, like sometimes I see Pickford and he has good games, but yeah, he was just a bit, I don't know, gone in that
I think with Pickford, he is still very young. I mean, when you're looking at all of these keepers, excluding Joe Hart, I'd probably say they're all in a sort of young-ish kind of group. But the thing is, with Pickford, he started off at Sunderland, and then he just got really good. Was a really good goalkeeper for Sunderland. Moves over to Everton, and he's doing really well. I think he's had a fairly good season overall. But what you got to remember is that he's still young, and all footballers make mistakes. All footballers have their bad days. But when you don't have the experience to prepare and prevent them from happening, then you are going to get, a keeper that isn't confident enough to be put as number one. But I agree with you about Nick Pope. I think he's definitely a number one shirt for now.
Yeah, and obviously Jack Butland's a good keeper as well. And I think he was a bit unfortunate with injuries at the start of the season, I think. And was it... I don't know. It was this. I don't know if it was this. Did he miss out on the Euros because of an injury or something?
Yeah, it was something like that.
I feel like he's
the
missed
last
out
tournament.
Yeah,
would have been in.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, and obviously Joe Hart misses out, which I'm not surprised that he's not as good as he used to be.
Honestly, the fall from grace he's had is really sad, in all honesty, because no one would beat him. Like, he was set out. He was going to be like the Manuel Neuer or the De Gea of like England, but he just. I think it was after his fallout with what's his name? Is it Pellegrini?
Yeah.
But then the last time he was at City, fell out with the manager, and the minute that happens, it can really damage your career. So I think that is just the turn it took for him, which is a shame.
Yeah, because I couldn't actually pinpoint the point where he just stopped performing. It's a strange one, really.
I remember him. He went off to, what was it, Torino?
Torino.
That's it. Yeah, for like half a season or a season, and I think it was like he was trying to look for a slightly less sort of quality team to really pick up his talent again and pick up his form, but it just completely toppled over.
Didn't work at
no, not at all.
Now I think he's still with City, isn't he? Because
effectively, yeah.
I think he went on loan to West Ham, obviously this season. He's played for them, but yeah, I can't see him staying at City any longer. But
no,
yeah,
especially with Edison breaking through.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is a sad one for Hart, but we'll move on to the defenders. So obviously we've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, Gary Cahill, Kyle Walker, John Stones, Harry Maguire, Kieran Trippier, Danny Rose, Phil Jones, and Ashley Young. Out of them, a starting four, I'd choose Alexander-Arnold over Kyle Walker.
Yeah.
Only based on I guess Kyle Walker has had a good season, obviously, with City, but I don't know. I prefer. Maybe it's me being biased because I'm a Liverpool fan, but I'd choose. Who would you choose as a Chelsea fan?
I would also choose Alexander-Arnold, and I mean, as a Chelsea fan, basically out of this sort of competition, so to speak. I think Trent's on such a high at the moment, and he's just continuously rising, and like. He just seems like the hard-working kind of player that will continue doing so, like another Liverpool player, Bobby Firmino. I honestly think that he'll have another great season next season because they're the kind of players that keep their momentum going, and Kyle Walker has been quite inconsistent in the last couple of seasons. I think just before he left Spurs, that's when I really saw him as an ideal right-back, and now he's like, you got pace.
That's
Whereas, Arnold really works hard as well. So that's good.
And obviously Alexander-Arnold does have mistakes in him. I've seen it in games, but when he's good, he looks way beyond his age at times. Yeah.
He reminds me of like a young Rio Ferdinand, sort of thing.
Yeah, and he's I think he's only 18, 19 still, if that.
So young.
But it's just kind of, it's one of those of like trusting in your youth players and like kind of building, kind of like gelling the squad early. Maybe, I guess you could say sacrificing some tournaments, just to like not sacrificing, but it's weird because I don't know. I don't know how other teams do it. Like Germany are consistent throughout every World Cup. They make it to the quarters and
Yeah,
then
I
some,
think the way you got to look at it, in terms of like youth and bringing them up and sort of like every country reproducing another beyond classic like class of footballers. I think it's a lot deeper than just football, because there's so many socio-economic demographics that lead up to how the generation sort of grow up. You know, are there many football courts around or pitches? Is there no sporting facilities about? Like, is there no way they can be active? Things like that. I think, with Germany and France as well, those countries that have an unbelievable squad depth. Like, I think that it's just purely because they're as a country, they are providing to their youngers, you know, to their youthful generation. They're providing to them the facilities and the time and the space to practice their dreams and follow it through. Because a lot of kids in England, I've noticed, have like, I mean, going back to my school days, like seeing like guys that were just unbelievable at football. Like, you know, they're like 13, 14, but they're playing around like they've done this for years and years. And I think over the years, there's something that just stops them in their tracks, and that can happen to anyone. But I think definitely socio-economic demographics have a part of it.
Yeah, I definitely think that. Obviously, with you could even look at like less well-off countries such as like Brazil, where obviously it's kind of the opposite, where they have such poor conditions that they actually turn out even better than they would if they did have facilities.
To football, because there's nothing else.
Exactly, and they're playing in such terrible conditions with such terrible balls that once they get an actual, get proper good facilities, they're insanely talented. And obviously Brazil are another team that have
I mean, the Brazilians in the Premier League at the moment, they're all shining. There's probably a couple that aren't, but like all of them at the top clubs, you can see that. You can see that they've been working towards this dream goal of living that lavish lifestyle as a footballer and having all of these facilities and things like that like available to you. And you can see how hard they've worked from it, because in all of them I see really hard working players, like Willian, the way he races around the field helping to get the ball. Firmino is the same. Gabriel Jesus, so many Brazilian talents. And it is really interesting to look at South America and see their completely different conditions of living, and yet how they still manage to break through. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I think England just kind of fall in well, it's closer to the other end obviously, but just not as good as Germany and France, which is unfortunate. But I think we definitely have the money to do it, because obviously the Premier League brings in so much money.
It does, but football's become a business now. It's not a sport, it's a business.
It's true, but yeah. So yeah, going back to the four defenders I'd choose, I'd probably go with Alexander-Arnold, Cahill. I think I'd choose as one of my centre backs, and then probably Harry Maguire, and then is Kieran Trippier a left back?
He's a whatever back. He's a good wing back.
I think he can play both. Yeah. So I'd probably have Trippier, or maybe Ashley Young, because I don't like Ashley Young, but he is a solid left back.
He can be good, yeah. Since he's taken out that position, he's worked really hard and he's done really well. In terms of my back four, I'd probably have Trippier on the wing on the left. Definitely Gary Cahill. Gotta love that Cahill. And then Smalling's on the list, right? Or is he not? Oh no, he was left.
No,
he was left.
Not there.
Oh my god.
You got John Stones as well as a centre back, and Phil Jones.
You see, I always have concerns with Phil Jones, because he's had too many slip ups lately. I mean, he is picking his career up. He's now actually not playing every game, and Phil Jones did this, Phil Jones did that, but he's actually picking his career up. But the way I see it, I think John Stones has a very bright future ahead of him. And I think fixating his place as a centre back for England would definitely it would get his mind very focused on his ultimate goal, being a top player at City, winning the league time and time again. Like, I think it's gonna really pick him up, and yeah, I think Stones would really suit that position.
Yeah, yeah. Like John Stones is a good player. Don't get me wrong, but times I see him, he always has a mistake in him. I still don't see him like. Obviously, he's young and he's not gonna be, but he's just not a solid centre back, I'd say. So I don't have full trust in him. That's why I'd choose like Harry Maguire over him because
he's more experienced.
And he's I think Stones will probably have more chances in the future than Harry Maguire. But that's my take. But then if we move on to the midfield, obviously we've got Eric Dyer, Dele Alli, Jesse Lingard, Jordan Henderson, Delph, and Loftus-Cheek from Chelsea. Who would you pick from?
So for the right wing, definitely Jesse Lingard. I think he's just become exceptional. Like what I was saying earlier about these kids having these dreams at such a young age and working towards it, and then that hard work turning into momentum when you're actually putting it into practice. Jesse Lingard is a perfect example of that because he's been in the United team 3 seasons now, tops, and every season I've remembered him being a really like vibrant and quick-witted and just a dedicated player both on and off the pitch, and he's got his jokes as well with him, but I think he's such a bright talent. He's fast, he can pick up a run whenever he wants, and he can finish, so he's a definite right wing for me. In the middle of the park, I would definitely put Dele Alli as a centre attacking mid. He's got a lot of talent. The kid really does have. He's scored several times against Chelsea, which is why I do hold back a bit whenever I talk about this. But I mean, he did. He is originally like from Milton Keynes, and I myself am from Milton Keynes, so it's quite cool to see that happen, you know. But he's a bright talent, so I'd keep him there. Left wing.
Because we have forwards here as well, which is includes Sterling, Vardy, Rashford, Welbeck, and Kane. So obviously Sterling could fit on that left.
Yeah, Sterling could probably. I think that would be useful for. I mean, he plays really well in a forward position, but he's got so much energy in him that I think starting him as a left mid instead of a left like forward necessarily, then I think he's going to create more chances, create more runs, and I think building from deep could be the way to go for him now. So, centre defence mid. I mean, I actually, speaking about him earlier, it's a bit weird to say this, but Phil Jones would probably be a decent CDM because he's one of those players that can still pick a pass as well as defend. But I mean, do we have many other defensive mids?
Eric Dyer could go there.
Okay.
And maybe Henderson as well could.
Henderson. Right. Well, I haven't seen him in God.
Yeah, as a Liverpool fan, I'm not a massive fan of Jordan Henderson. Like he has his games where he's top class, but then there's a lot of times where I get so frustrated watching him play.
I think everyone put so much confidence and praise in him because like Gerrard was leaving and he was coming in. He was like, "Oh, he's the new Gerrard." Yeah. He's really not.
No, he's a poor man's Gerrard.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. But I'm thinking formations I play. I definitely played the 4 at the back, and then because I'd want Dele Alli in my team, probably Eric Dyer behind CDM, Dele Alli Cam. Actually, I'm thinking maybe 3 kind of centre mids in Dyer, Ali, and Henderson, and then the 3 up front. I'd have Vardy, Kane, and Sterling. I think.
Yeah, no, I think they're quite nice choices. Do you know what? It's funny because we spoke about Gareth Southgate quite a bit earlier, and how there are other managers that probably would have done a better job. But in terms of picking this squad, it's very, very hard to not choose any of these players as a starter because I think they all have what it takes. But in terms of that midfield, I'd probably stick with we've got 4 at the back and then possibly 4 in midfield. I'm thinking maybe 2 holders and then 2 sort of wingers that sort of like float in between wing and middle. So they can act as cams as well. And And then obviously for the front two, I think it's simply just front two in the middle as you do, because then that way you've got Kane who can be there for the headers or for the long shots. You've got Vardy who's there for the pace, for the runs, things like that. I think those two could cause a lot of havoc when they start working well together. And Rashford, what do I need to say about Rashford? He picks his day.
Yeah.
And he will just smash it. So hopefully he will make a big point as well.
Yeah, it's nice to have these a little bit of depth with all these attacking players with Rashford and Lingard and Loftus-Cheek as well, who's had a great season at Palace.
Yeah.
So
he's a very composed midfielder. Right? In him, I see a very composed young man that knows that if he keeps working as hard as he currently is, his time will come in terms of working up or living up at the big clubs. And he's at loan, I think at the moment. He's with Chelsea. And
he's with Chelsea.
I think he could become a really big Chelsea player as long as we don't get yet another manager who makes yet another change.
Loans all your players out.
Hopefully that won't be happening too much. But I think there's a big future ahead of him. So.
Yeah,
definitely pop him in that squad.
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well. And on standby, the players we have is Heaton, Tarkowski for Burnley, Lewis Cook for Bournemouth, Livermore for West Brom, and Adam Lallana for Liverpool, who was definitely was England's best player in, I think it was the Euros.
Yeah,
I personally thought. He's obviously been very unfortunate this season with injury, so he hasn't really proved himself that he can go to the tournament because he's not had that the game time to make him the player that he usually is. So I understand the call to make him standby, but obviously it would have been nice to see him go as well.
Yeah, I think people need to remember that Lallana has been actually playing for a few years. It doesn't seem like he has been, but he really has. And not just playing, but playing in the Premier League. And obviously he's been at Liverpool for a while, and then Southampton when they were on the rise. And I think, and in so many of his years in the Premier League, he's been top notch. He really has played really well. And so that consistency, that level of consistency, is what I want to see in England's team. So it's a shame that he's not definitely there. But I mean, players like Tarkowski, whose name I'd only heard a few months back when Burnley started actually playing well.
Yeah.
And Tom Heaton, who's had a lot of words said about him. He's quite a good keeper. But Tarkowski mainly, I worry that he hasn't played enough football at enough of a high level. Burnley are that team that you would expect finishing the top. In the bottom 5 or 6, but almost finished in the top 5 or 6 this season. They had a great season, but so did Leicester 2 years ago. So something tells me in the future Burnley won't exactly live up to this, and neither will Tarkowski. So him being on standby is a good decision, considering he's got the quality and has shown that throughout the course of this season, but he may not be the one to put a gamble on in this case, because it's great having one good season as a mid-table team like Burnley in the Premier League, but this is the World Cup.
Yeah,
this is no Premier League, even though the Premier League is so vast.
Yeah,